Welcome, future minors. Thank you for joining us for today's session, Financing Your Education, provided by the Office of Student Financial Aid and the Office of Scholarships. When you apply for the FAFSA, you are also applying for the federal student loans. Now, student loans, it is money that you borrow that you do have to pay back. Now, you do not have to pay back immediately. You do have a 6-month grace period from the time that you either graduate, from the time that you completely withdraw from UTEP, or 6 months from when your enrollment drops to less than half time. You have 6 months from that point to start making your payments on your student loans. Now, because it is money that you do have to pay back, we do recommend to only borrow what you need. There are different types of loans that are available for students, and there also is a loan that's available for parents. There is the federal direct subsidized loan, the federal direct unsubsidized loan, the federal direct parent plus loan, and the federal direct graduate plus loan. Now, for undergraduate students, you may be eligible for federal direct subsidized loan and unsubsidized loan. Now, these two loans for an undergraduate student, the interest rate is 4.53. The only difference between these two is that for subsidized loan, we do have to determine if you have any financial need, which is something that I mentioned earlier when we talked about Pell Grant. And in some slides below, we will explain how do we determine if you have financial need. All undergraduate students, you are all eligible for unsubsidized loan. Now, the only difference between these two, aside from determining if you are eligible for them based on your financial need, is that the subsidized loan, that very first one, the government pays for your interest while you're still in school, at least half time. So if you continue with your education and you continue to be at least half time, you will not accrue any interest rate on that loan. Now, for the unsubsidized loan, the interest rate starts accruing as soon as you accept the loan. So that's the only difference between the two. One of the differences is that the subsidized is need-based, so we need to determine if you have any financial need. And also for the subsidized loan, the government pays for your interest while you're in school, as opposed to the unsubsidized. For that one, it is provided to all undergraduate students, and it is also the interest rate starts accruing as soon as you accept the loan. Now, for the loan that is available for the parent, it's called the Direct Plus loan, and this is for the parent of an undergraduate dependent student. Now, if you're considered a dependent student, your parent can apply for this loan. This loan is different because it does require a credit check. So if your parents have good credit, then you may be eligible for this loan. If your parents do not have good credit, then at that point we can reevaluate to see what can be done for that plus loan. Now, there is also a plus loan that's available for graduate students, and for that one, it is again credit based. So the student does have to go through credit check to be eligible for it. Now, all of these, as you can see, they have different interest rates. Even though, let's say, even the highest one, the Direct Plus loans, the interest rate is 7.08. The interest rate on these student loans and parent loans, they're going to be much less than what you would find at a private bank, at a private credit union. So make sure that you talk to your Office of Financial Aid. Make sure you talk to us if you have any questions about the student loans. That way we can give you the information that you need to determine if you would like to accept these loans, because we do believe that they are more beneficial to students as opposed to taking out a private loan elsewhere. As I mentioned earlier, please be careful borrowing and only borrow what you need. Now, when you apply for the FAFSA and you are eligible for these loans, we do not accept them on your behalf. You have the option to decline the loans. You have the option to accept partial amounts, or you can accept the full amounts. It really is up to you what you want to accept. We are simply asking for you to be careful with borrowing, just to avoid too much debt. Like I mentioned in the slide before, for the student loans, you will have a 6-month grace period from the time that you graduate, from the time that you completely withdraw, or 6 months after you drop to less than half-time enrollment. You have 6 months from then to begin making your payments on your student loans. Now, on average, they put you on a 10-year repayment plan. So all of the loans that you have accrued during that time, they will all be placed in a 10-year repayment plan. So, which means that all of your loans will be paid in 10 years. Now, there are different payment options available, and you can research them, and you can see what the options are at studentloans.gov. That is a benefit of using the loans that are offered to you as part of the FAFSA, as opposed to going with a private bank, a private lender, that they may not have as much flexibility with you as you would with the loans provided when you apply for the FAFSA. Now, we want to really emphasize that we want you to avoid defaulting on your student loans. So that means when you choose to not pay back your student loan. Now, we want to emphasize to avoid defaulting because it does affect you in your everyday life. It will remain on your credit history for 7 years, and that is a really long time. Now, if you think about 7 years and how can it affect you, I mean, it can affect you in buying a house, in purchasing a car, in if you want to apply for credit cards. It can affect you in a lot of different ways. But I believe the most important way it can affect you, by it being on your credit history, is that it can even prevent you from getting a job. So many employers, they are doing credit checks on applicants, and let's say that you finished your undergraduate studies, you have your bachelor's degree, and there's this really good job that you want to go after, but you defaulted on your student loans and they do credit check. You may have missed out on that perfect job just because you didn't pay your student loans. So I think, if anything, that is one of the big reasons why to make sure that you avoid going into default. And there's also other more severe things that can also happen. I mean, they can garnish your wages, they can go after your social security, there's a lot of things that can happen if you don't pay your student loans. So that's why we are asking you to please be careful with what you're borrowing, and just to avoid getting into too much debt. These loans are a great option, a great opportunity if you need them. So make sure you take advantage of them. However, just be mindful of what you are accepting to make sure that you can pay them back. Now, you must repay your loans with interest. So what that means is that even though you're in your student loans, whatever you accepted, even though the amounts are low, it will have an interest that will be attached to it. So even for the subsidized loan, even though you didn't have interest accruing while you were in school, it will begin accruing after the fact, because at that point you are no longer enrolled at least half-time. So the interest will be accruing. So we ask you to, even if you can, pay the minimum amount, or make small payments if you can. You don't have to wait until the 6-month grace period is due. You can make your payments even before that time. There is no penalty to make early payments. So if you can, even $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can do, we recommend that you make those payments, which will serve better in the future. Now, when you start getting your calls, the calls from your loan servicer letting you know that it's time to pay back, your grace period is almost up, make sure you talk to them. They are there to help you in case that you have any questions, or that even if you have trouble making your payments. They are the perfect person to talk to in case that you need to go into any of those repayment plans that are available. There is one repayment plan that is most common, that most students know about, which is the income-driven repayment plan. Now, for that one, you do have to apply, and you do let them know how much you are making, how many people live in your household, for example. You provide this information, and based on that information, they can determine how much you can reasonably pay based on that income. So that would be helpful in case that after you graduate, let's say that you don't find, you still can't find a job, or you found a job that's perhaps not paying you as much, or anything. They can work with you. They will tell you what payment plans are available for your specific situation. They'll tell you what you need to do. Just make sure you do not avoid talking to them. They are there to help you. And here at UTEP, we are also here to help you in case that you have any questions or you need help speaking with your loan servicer. Lastly, I want to thank you all for joining us today for today's presentation. You can always find us at the Mike Loya Academic Services building in room 204. We are in the corner of Schuster and Hawthorne. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. I have provided you with our websites for the Office of Scholarships and the Office of Student Financial Aid, also our email addresses and our phone number. Thank you all once again for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. Go Miners!